After 30 years, a millionaire discovers his mother. An incredible, life-changing reunion revealed. Jack Reynolds paced around his penthouse, rain pattering against the glass like a melancholic soundtrack to his turmoil. At 45, with a string of successes in real estate, he should have felt content. Instead, there was a void inside, an echo sounding louder with each passing day. What was he missing? The luxury cars, the sprawling estates, they bore witness to his achievements, yet couldn't fill the dark chasm of loneliness that gnawed at him. One dreary afternoon, in search of distraction, he found himself in his late father's attic, the air thick with dust and memories. He stumbled on old boxes filled with relics of a life once lived. As he rummaged, a tattered letter slipped from the pile and fluttered to the ground. The elegant script knocked the breath from his lungs. He was adopted. The words reverberated like an alarm bell through his mind, shattering the facade of stability he had built. He learned of a biological mother he never knew, a face fading in the fog of imagination, the root of a mystery he was desperate to solve. His heart raced as questions flooded in. Who was she? Why had she chosen this path? What kind of life had she led without him? The pain of abandonment clawed at him, the uncomfortable truth of his existence unfurling like the letter itself. Each line echoed with betrayal, yet offered a flicker of hope. Could knowing her fill the void he felt, or deepen it further? Fighting against the tidal wave of emotions, Jack made a choice. He would return to Ashland, the small town he had long outgrown. The streets held remnants of childhood, their familiarity both inviting and suffocating. Revisiting his roots would spell either liberation or entrapment. As he drove through the familiar roads, nostalgia mixed with guilt. Friends he once knew led simpler lives, battling economic struggles he had once been shielded from. And yet, a deeper truth gnawed at him: who was he without his possessions? This quest to find his mother was not simply about blood ties but an exploration of identity. The thought of knocking on her door filled him with dread. What would he uncover? Would she reject him, or would their reunion be marred by years of silence? Finally, he arrived at a modest one-bedroom home, each second stretching painfully as he stood on the porch. The rain intensified, mirroring his inner turmoil. Should he confront her, a woman who had abandoned him, or seek out her forgiveness for the anger he had bottled inside? The weight of so many feelings pressed against his chest. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The door creaked open, revealing a woman whose face bore the marks of hardship. Her eyes, a faded reflection of his own, shimmered with something he couldn't quite decipher. Was it regret, sorrow, or an unyielding yearning? The moment felt heavy, charged with unresolved issues and unspoken words. Jack felt his heart seize, questions tumbling about in his mind like dry leaves in a storm. With every whisper shared, deeper understanding mingled with the painful reality of past decisions and missed opportunities. The air felt electric and strained. He held tightly to his emotions, a brimming cup about to spill. As a tentative conversation began, he questioned more than just their past. What would their future look like? Would they bridge the gap years of silence had created, or would his greatest fear, that this was all mere illusion, become reality? Jack's mind raced, a vortex of unresolved anguish twisting within him. He stood at the precipice of a life-altering choice: embrace the woman before him, or let the bitterness of his past consume him. The atmosphere thickened, a challenge to confront the tempest swirling inside him. Would he finally uncover the family he never knew, or would this meeting fracture him further? As they spoke, the air crackled with an impending storm of emotions, leaving him and the world around him on the edge of an unfathomable revelation. The words hung in the air, heavy with unarticulated feelings. Jack searched his mother's face for answers, and as he did, he caught a glimpse of the wound that mirrored his own childhood scars. The silence was charged, each second prolonging the tension, heralding the difficulty of articulating years of hurt. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "Why?" he finally asked, the word escaping as a tremor, his voice tinged with years of unresolved suffering. He had often imagined this moment, each possible scenario traversing the threshold between longing and resentment. Up until now, the vision had been simplistic. Now, it was raw and tangled. Her expression shifted, a flicker of pain surfacing before she spoke. "Because I thought it would be better for you. I was young, scared, and I didn't think I could give you the life you deserved." Her words felt like a bomb and a dagger all at once. Jack's heart sank. It was the typical narrative, the archetype of a misguided mother sacrificing her child for the betterment of his future. Yet, how much better had life been? Would the achievements he had amassed mean anything if they were built on a foundation of abandonment? The room felt stifling as he conjured the image of his life. Despite the accolades, the numerous deals closed in the high-stakes world of real estate, he felt fundamentally unanchored. His mother had chosen to unmoor him. "What have you been doing all this time?" he asked, urgency creeping into his voice, desperate to tether himself to some remnant of her life, not just his own. Their worlds had existed parallelly, diverging without so much as a wave. He needed context. She blinked, the rush of memories washing over her. "I've struggled, Jack. I've made mistakes, but I've tried to make a life. I'm not the person you expected. I've tried to make amends in my own way." A rush of conflicting emotions surged through him, compelling him to ask, "And do you want to try to make amends with me?" It was a line drawn in a different type of sand. His posture stiffened, revelations snapping into sharper focus. Would this conversation amount to a reconciliation of souls, or merely a chapter in the book of his life that was better left closed? "I want to," she replied, voice steadier now. "I've hoped for this day too, Jack. I've thought about you every single day. You don't know the weight of my heartache." Acceptance hung just beyond their reach, tempting and terrifying. But could he dare to believe her? The years he had built a fortress around his heart threatened to reel him back into solitude. What did forgiveness look like when even the concept of family had felt like a distant puzzle? As they traversed the lands of conversation, navigating the currents of pain and desire, Jack unearthed a truth buried deep within himself. Maybe this was an opportunity, not just for her but for him too, a chance to redefine who he was in light of this new knowledge. He began actively choosing to consider vulnerability as a strength rather than a threat. The hours slipped away, air thick with both a burgeoning understanding and unresolved contention. Yet there was a flicker of hope, the realization that familiarity could breed not just contempt but connection. But as they delved deeper, Jack recognized another truth: this journey wasn't merely about rebuilding ties with his mother, it was also an expedition toward understanding his own limits. The layers of resentment that had painted his life began to peel back, revealing a man not completely defined by his past but in the process of forging a new identity with every moment spent in her presence that he would have to confront more than just his mother's decisions. He needed to face his own. Would he allow her back into his life in a meaningful way, or would the specter of betrayal remain too great? Would the weeks ahead be filled with hope or with new heartaches? The very essence of forgiveness and what it required of him loomed large, demanding attention. At that moment, Jack knew his next decision would shape not only his relationship with her but ultimately his own spirit. Would he embrace this second chance and its revelations, or retreat back into the guarded world he had created? One thing was for certain: the conversation had only just begun, and the stakes were higher than ever. The storm outside mirrored his internal chaos, thunder rumbling as if echoing the uncertainties of his heart. What revelations lay ahead, and would they change him irrevocably? As he looked at her, this woman who had been a ghost in his life, he felt the gravitational pull of the past intertwining with the promise of the future. Fear clashed with a flicker of curiosity. Would he embrace the unknown paths, or would he step back into the shadows of his own making? As the downpour intensified outside, Jack felt the weight of his decision pressing against his chest. This was not just about reconciliation, it was a confrontation with the person he had become, a layer of his identity formed from the absence that had defined his childhood. He sought clarity, and yet, the moment felt like a spiral into uncertainty. "Can you tell me about your life?" he prompted, eager to fill the void with real stories rather than assumptions. The question lingered, hovering in the charged air between them, catalyzing a moment of profound revelation. His mother hesitated, guilt coloring her features. "There wasn't much to tell," she began, her voice quaking slightly. "I moved a lot. I took different jobs, nothing stable. Just trying to survive." Jack leaned forward, his curiosity ignited by the quiver in her tone. "But you're here now. You've been trying to make amends. What does that mean? What do you want from me?" Her eyes locked onto his, shimmering with sincerity that momentarily diffused his defenses. "I want the opportunity to be part of your life, Jack. I know I can't erase the past, but I want to understand the man you've become," she confessed. This statement struck deeper than any of their previous exchanges, demanding Jack to confront the man behind the accolades and awards he had accrued. Who was he really? All these years, he had wielded success like armor, but what sorrow lay beneath? The city skyline outside, bright against the storm, served as a stark comparison to the chaos brewing within. "Do you even know what I do?" he asked sharply, his fingers gripping the arm of the chair, testing the waters of this newfound vulnerability. "Real estate," she replied softly, the name washing over her lips as if it carried nostalgia. "That's just the surface," Jack said, the precision of his own self-analysis edging into accusation. "I sell dreams, Mom. I sell houses people think will define their happiness." "That doesn't mean you aren't worthy of love," she countered, her determination rising. "You've built an empire, but what are you building in here?" She tapped lightly against her chest, each gesture punctuating the doubt that loomed over him. He was struck, his pulse quickening. There it was, the challenge he had evaded for too long. Through each deed he signed, his desire to fill an empty void became glaringly obvious. Jack's carefully constructed life had been wedged between triumph and regret, with motivations that tangled into a larger existential crisis. "I can't just pretend everything's fine. I don't know how to process this," he admitted, anger suffusing his words, curling into frustration. "And after 30 years of silence, how can you expect me to forgive you?" "You take one small step at a time," she urged, leaning into the intensity of his storm. "Forgiveness is the first of many. It doesn't change the past but can inspire a different future. If you let it." Jack pushed back, his heart pounding in his chest. How could he begin to forgive the person who had shaped so much pain within him? He battled with the prospect of letting down his guard, exposing the cracks in his foundation. Was he ready to traverse the fragile bridge between anger and healing? So how do we move forward? The question hung in the air, a fragile flower blooming in thorns, signaling that he was willing to consider the path ahead. Her eyes widened slightly, the room filled with an unspoken understanding. "It begins by creating space for each other. I don't expect it to be easy, but I want to prove I'm worthy of your trust again." As thunder cracked like a whip in the distance, Jack's mind raced through the implications of her words. Could he truly allow her back into his life? Each heartbeat echoed a primal fear of failure, of being abandoned again. The combat between skepticism and hope churned within. "Maybe it's time I confront the life I've built." Jack leaned back, catching his breath as he mulled over the potential of this reset. Outside, rain cascaded down like a torrent of memories he had suppressed. Each drop was a reminder of what had shaped him, and as the clouds rumbled, Jack realized that facing this truth could also shape his future. "Let's start with honesty," he finally proposed, surprise flooding him with its boldness. "What do we need to unearth to redefine our relationship?" With that question, Jack felt the ghost of his past begin to transform. He sensed that this was merely the beginning of an inquiry that would redefine everything he thought he knew about himself and the connection he yearned to rebuild. What buried secrets awaited in the excavation of their shared history, and would he be prepared for what lay ahead? Jack took a deep breath, his heart still racing, as he faced his mother across the stormy room. Honesty, he thought, was often a fleeting concept, one that could flounder in the depths of unspoken pain. Every shred of his past echoed in the raindrops against the window, battering away at the barriers he had built so high. "Let us be real," he urged. "What did you think about me back then? When I was a kid? Did I cross your mind at all?" The words fell heavy, tightening the air around them. For a moment, his mother's gaze drifted away, caught somewhere beyond the glass. "I thought about you every day," she whispered, barely audible over the relentless downpour. "Your laughter, your smile, it haunted me." Jack's breath hitched. "Haunted?" he echoed incredulously. "Haunted is one way to put it, but I was the ghost in your life, right? The child you left behind." Her face contorted with pain, a profound weariness etched into her features. "I didn't leave out of choice, Jack. I was in survival mode, fighting demons inside and out. You have to understand." She paused, searching for words among the wreckage. This was the murky area where they tread now, the intersection of truth and sorrow. "I made mistakes, terrible ones, but I never stopped thinking of you. I thought of what I could have given you, what you deserved." Each word was like a strike to his heart, painful, yet oddly liberating. It was a beginning, a singular confrontation of their realities that could no longer go unexamined. "What would you have given me?" he pressed, frustration bubbling under the surface. "What was so urgent that you had to leave me for 30 years? You left me alone to figure everything out. Every time I achieved something, I thought maybe." He stopped himself, wrestling with the emotions scrambling for release. "I thought maybe it would be enough for you to come back." Silence enveloped the space between them, thick like the humidity before a storm. "I thought you'd be better off without me," she finally said, her voice breaking. "I convinced myself that you would have a better life. But all it did was ruin us both, didn't it?" Jack shifted in his seat, confronting the unsettling realization that behind her apology was vulnerability and honesty he had never anticipated from her. "I spent years trying to fill an empty void. Building a life based on the assumption that success would somehow validate my existence," he admitted. "But all I did was build a house of cards that could fall." It was a moment of total transparency, unveiling layers he tried to keep hidden, even from himself. A flicker of understanding danced in his mother's eyes. "What if," she hesitated, "you let me help? Let me be a part of the rest of your journey. We can figure this out together." Jack's heart raced, but his instincts kicked in, caution wrapped around his impulses like a vice. "Help? You think your presence will fix a lifetime of neglect?" "I can't promise I can fix everything," she countered fiercely. "But I can offer my honesty, my devotion to making it right. Isn't that where we start?" He stared at her, digging deeper into his own perspective. Each piece of his life, every success he measured, every failure he resigned himself to, was shaped by this woman sitting before him. It ignited a flicker of resilience, juxtaposed against a swell of resentment. But he was tired of being trapped in a cycle of bitterness. What if you're right? What if this is worth visibly exploring? Her cautious hope settled between them, crackling like the static in the air before a storm's full descent. It was nothing short of terrifying, but Jack felt an aching desire to move forward, necessary, frightening, exhilarating. "I'm not promising to forgive just yet," he declared, fortifying the walls of self-protection. "But I'm willing to explore this. Let us deal with truths neither of us wants to face." The rain continued to pound against the window, surging like the bubbling tide of unresolved emotions. They shared a fragile moment, the air electric with possible reconciliation. Jack could never have imagined this encounter would carve out a path towards self-discovery and redemption, but with every intention to heal, shadows lurked behind their conversation, old wounds ready to resurface unexpectedly, and secrets that threatened to shift the course of their fragile connection. "What lies ahead for us, Jack?" she asked, just as apprehension laced her voice. I don't know, he replied, uncertainty flickering through his mind. But I suspect the hardest part is yet to come. As the rain beat down fiercely, a storm beyond their control, Jack felt the ground beneath him shift. What buried truths would emerge next? What would these revelations demand from them both? Jack sat in silence, the storm outside mapping the turmoil inside him. As he looked away from his mother, he noticed the scattered reminders of his past on the bookshelf behind her, a collection of trophies, framed photos, and dusty praise letters from long-ago employers. Each item was another monument to a success achieved alone. The ache of longing mingled with the bitterness of abandonment. Why now? He heard himself ask, breaking the quiet. Why seek me after all this time? What changed? His voice carried the weight of 1,000 silent grievances, every word layered with incredulity. She hesitated, processing his challenge. I came to understand the irrevocable damage the past caused. I've spent my life wishing I could go back, undo my choices. But avoiding the truth does not heal. I need you to know I'm different now. Jack clenched his fists, an instinctive guard against the burgeoning trust she seemed to expect. Different? He spat, bitterness coloring the word. Did you think about being different when you left? Where was this clarity then? The sting of his reproach settled heavily between them. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. I was suffocated by my circumstances, Jack. Every decision came from a place of fear. I never felt worthy enough to give you what you needed. I thought leaving was an act of love. Love? Love is not running away, he replied, frustration boiling to the surface. Love is in the struggle, the fight to make things better. The air practically crackled with the weight of unspoken truths, as if his harsh words ignited the tension lingering like static electricity. She nodded slowly, finally looking him straight in the eyes. You're right, and I regret it deeply. But I want to fight for you now. I want a chance to earn your trust, to stand beside you instead of hiding behind my choices. He could feel the flicker of something he hadn't anticipated, hope draped in uncertainty. The thought of allowing her back into his life felt both repelling and captivating, as if igniting a fuse of possibility he had long deemed extinguished. Still, the question of whether he could surrender to the vulnerability loomed before him. I don't know where to start, Jack admitted, his voice softer, but his defenses remained tightly wound. It's been 3 decades of unresolved pain, and you think we can just switch gears? What if we don't? What if it's a gradual journey? We can go slow, one step at a time. The sincerity in her tone was disarming, almost inviting him to share the burden of their collective history rather than forcing him into an acceptance he was ready to embrace. The storm outside rumbled, mirroring the tumult within him. Could he truly allow another chance for connection? Each breath was a mix of longing to heal and fear of being hurt again. Tentatively, Jack slid into his own thoughts. He thought of his accomplishments, the promotions he had chased, the wealth he had amassed, all built upon a foundation of solitude. He had achieved great heights, yet here lay in front of him a deeper challenge, restoring what was as fragile as the memories wrapped in silence. What if I agree to explore this? He voiced, the uncertainty audible but tempered by a flicker of determination. What's the first step? Her relief was palpable, but it was the conviction in her reply that struck deeper than words. We begin by taking stock of our truths, our fears. Honestly. No more hiding. Jack swallowed hard, sensing the profound weight of her words. He felt drawn to this new venture, not just to reconnect with her but to discover parts of himself yet unexplored, raw and real. As they exchanged tentative promises, the storm began to relent, almost as if the universe recognized their fragile truce. There was beauty in vulnerability, he thought. But lurking beneath the surface were fears and doubts, teetering at the edges of his resolve. What deep-seated fears would surface as they began to peel back the layers of their past? Would the honesty bring them closer, or would it widen the rift further? Jack's pulse quickened. The true storm might still lie ahead, waiting to be unleashed by their discovery. As the last echoes of thunder faded into a soft drizzle, Jack felt an uneasy calm wash over him. His mother's proposition, the idea of confronting their shared truths, loomed. The anticipation turned his stomach, but the swirl of unresolved emotions buzzed more insistently than ever. He glanced at her, sitting before him, the face he had long unwelcomely cherished and resented. "What do you want to lay bare first?" he asked, his voice a flat line, betraying nothing of the chaos inside. "I think we start where it all began," she replied, a faint tremor evident in her tone. "Why I left, how it affected you, and what I lost in the process." Jack's jaw tightened. The past felt like a minefield, fraught with memories he had buried deep. But resisting the conversation now felt futile. The small embers of curiosity he had ignited in himself were beginning to glow brighter. "Fine," Jack responded, settling back against his chair as if bracing for impact. "Let us explore it. I want to know how you justified abandoning everything." His words were heavier than he intended, yet they served as a catalyst. It was her turn to bear the brunt of 3 decades worth of anguish. "I thought that by leaving, I was giving you freedom," she started, her eyes distant as they shifted to the ceiling. "But I didn't grasp the truth that it was my fear of failing as a mother that propelled me away. I thought staying meant dragging you down with me." Jack felt the simmering tension expand. The desire to understand clashed hard against the veil of resentment that had shaded his thoughts for so long. "And you think that makes it better?" he challenged. "I don't expect it to," she answered, a flicker of defiance igniting in her eyes. "But it is the truth, and I need you to hear it. I was trapped in my own insecurities. I thought I had to cut ties to save you from my failures." "Saving me?" Jack echoed incredulously. "That's a warped view of love." His mind raced. The thought of vivid moments from his childhood crashed over him. Times when he felt neglected, days filled with unanswered questions, the gnawing sensation that nobody truly cared. Those memories shaped his life into a relentless quest for professional success, but they also anchored him amidst the isolating whirlwind of unacknowledged trauma. With a reluctant sigh, he shifted in his seat. "What if we dive deeper? What did you feel when you left?" Her breath caught, followed by the slow unfurling of her thoughts. "I felt like I was sparking the light of something bigger for you. But the truth is, every step outside that door was filled with guilt. I thought if I could be successful elsewhere, you'd be proud, and it would justify my absence." As the words tumbled out, Jack felt an odd surge of empathy intertwining with the bitterness, tangling the two emotions together like vines around a crumbling trellis. "And did you? Success doesn't equate to pride, Jack. I was successful, yet I remained lost." Her honesty dropped like a stone into the still waters of their conversation, rippling outward with unexpected force. The realization hung heavily between them, gripping Jack with a newfound awareness of shared pain. The air thickened as time stretched. Forbidden pride in her admission pulled Jack closer while the specter of the past hung like a sinister shadow. He recognized that in confronting her truths, he was also unearthing pieces of his. It was as if they were standing on opposite shores of a river that separated personal failures and hopes. "Then what do we do with this newfound understanding?" Jack's voice cracked, revealing a layer of vulnerability he barely knew existed within him. "We build from here. It begins with honesty, but it leads to forgiveness, and then hopefully healing." She reached out, tentative yet hopeful. Jack contemplated her words, the weight of them pressing at the corners of his mind. Forgiveness felt like a steep cliff. It invited him to scale it, yet the fear of falling lingered close behind. Could he let go of the past enough to reach out? What would come next? A hint of hesitation invaded his mind. The storm outside had subsided, but a new tempest brewed within. What further truths would surface? As realizations pressed on Jack's psyche, the symbolic question lingered: was he ready to slip his grip on resentment and embrace the fragility of newfound connection? The uncertainty of that answer sent ripples through his core. The flickering candlelight cast a soft glow, illuminating the faces caught in an emotional tug-of-war. Jack, captured in the weight of raw honesty, focused on his mother's intent gaze. The thread of dialogue felt fragile yet transformative, as if they were tracing the architecture of their collective scars, both ready to confront the foundational cracks that had left them isolated for so long. Forgiveness, Jack repeated, testing the word on his tongue, feeling the shape of it. It was foreign yet tantalizingly familiar. Contradictory thoughts jostled in his mind. Could he really tread the slippery slope from resentment to forgiveness, or was that simply another mirage? The unnerving truth was that while he had built a life fortified by professional accolades, a fortress of success that smelled sweetly of validation, inside he had carried an ember of grief smoldering beneath his skin. What if I'm not ready? The words slipped from him more like a confession than a question. In his mind, he had rehearsed this scene countless times, but reality bore a different texture, a palpable mix of reluctance and hope. His mother's face softened, a paradox of vulnerability and strength. It's not a race, Jack. Forgiveness doesn't happen in an instant, it's a mosaic of tiny moments, pieces that fit together over time. Sweat beaded along Jack's brow as he contemplated her insight. She stood there, offering compassion in the face of mutual past failures. Perhaps it was time to dismantle his defenses brick by brick. What if I uncover that I can't forgive? Or that I don't want to? He probed, each question a bid to keep her at a safe distance yet an invitation to dive deeper. Then we explore that too. Emotions can't be neatly categorized. They are complex and messy, she replied, her tone insistent, yet kind, as if recognizing the daunting task ahead of them. What if the anger is just another part of the process? Jack inhaled sharply, startled by the hint of truth. Anger had been a companion through his ascent, a fuel for his endless ambition. Yet here it was, transformed into a potential obstacle, something that could either anchor him or set him free. He had followed anger into his career, driven by the need to dismantle the specter of his childhood. But what if he could renounce it? Was that even a possibility? Searching his thoughts, he wondered whether a breaking point was required for true transformation. This feels risky. His mother settled back in her chair, her expression one of shared trepidation. Growth usually is. But what do we typically do when faced with risk? We can either choose to retreat to what is familiar or leap forward into the unknown. It's in those unknowns we may discover parts of ourselves we've yet to tap into. The words felt like an invocation, awakening dormant ambitions within him that went beyond mere professional measures. Perhaps there lay a talent he had buried: empathy, vulnerability as powerful as his skills in business. Perhaps in sharing this vulnerability, he could unlock new realms of connection not only with her but also with himself. Jack's heart thrummed in his chest, the heaviness of the moment mixing with the promise of potential change. And if the leap leads to more pain? He dared to ask, layers of fear seeping through each syllable. Then we face it together. She offered a reassuring smile that held the complexities of their past, one that blended joy with pain, acceptance with longing. You do not have to bear this alone. The air thickened, and Jack felt a veil shift between them. Here was a chance to redefine his life not by dodging shadows but by illuminating them. Trust had always been a scarcity, and yet in this moment, a fragile thread weaved between mother and son. And beneath his bubbling doubts, a burgeoning courage began to take root, whispering promises of connection and understanding. The storm inside him abated slightly, revealing a clearer path. As Jack's resolve sharpened, he took a deep breath. Let us navigate through this, together. With that declaration, he opened a door he wasn't sure would lead to light, but the act alone forged a profound shift. Now emboldened, he stood on the precipice of a new journey, one filled with the uncertain joys and formidable challenges inherent in facing the past. But the rest of the conversation awaited them. Could unearthing their deepest secrets hold the key not only to healing but also to a newfound sense of purpose for both of them? Each moment of truth unraveled tightened nerves as they prepared to uncover even deeper layers of their entwined histories. The flame of possibility flickered in the silence, inviting them into the intricate dance of vulnerability, resilience, and rebirth. And in that darkness, Jack wondered, what else might emerge from these revelations, these raw discussions that had barely scratched the surface. The air grew heavier as the silence stretched, tension coiling like a spring between them. Jack realized they were poised on the brink of a revelation that could redefine everything they thought they knew. His fingers fidgeted in his lap, the nervous energy bubbling up like steam. What lay ahead could be liberating or devastating. Uncertainty danced around him, transforming fear into a compelling adrenaline, a cue for action. With the flickering candlelight illuminating the contours of his mother's face, he decided to dive into the depths of their fractured past. "Do you remember that night when everything fell apart?" The words hung heavily in the air, yet Jack felt a mixture of regret and relief in speaking them. His mother's gaze faltered for a moment, her eyes clouding with memories. "How could I forget? It was the beginning of everything, wasn't it?" Her voice trembled, revealing cracks in her armor. Jack's heart raced. The night had become their unspoken wound, unquestioned yet constantly felt. Images flashed in his mind of chaos and hurt, a family fractured in the crucible of anger. His voice quavered, unsteady yet resolute. "It felt like we lost each other that night, and it's haunted me ever since. But did we really lose each other, or did we just lose sight of who we were?" She challenged gently, the softness of her tone clashing with his growing frustration. "Sometimes, anger can blind us to the truth." Her words stirred something deep within him, yet they struck a chord of resistance. Could it be so simple? Was their rift really just misunderstanding masked in years of unprocessed emotions? Jack's thoughts raced, yet a flicker of doubt pushed back. "Maybe we're trying to grasp something that's already changed," he murmured, deep contemplation mingling with fear of reconnecting. "Change is the constant we must embrace, Jack." Her conviction radiated through the shadows. "It can be terrifying, but only through vulnerability can we begin the transformation." He felt the weight of her honesty tethering him, forcing him to look beyond the surface, pulling the threads of a childhood memory. He questioned, "You were my rock when I needed one most. I always looked to you for guidance. And yet you were navigating your own storms." The acceptance burned, revealing vulnerabilities he had long locked away, like treasured artifacts trapped in a forgotten chest. "Those storms made me who I am, just as yours shaped you," she replied, genuine reflection lacing her words. "We both lost our way, but we need to remember that it's never too late to forge a new path." Jack's mind was racing again, but this time with inspiration. Could he truly reshape the narrative of their relationship? "All right, let us start here," he said, swallowing hard. "Let us delve into everything that hurt us. The missed opportunities, the times we lashed out in pain. Let us name these fears instead of letting them linger as shadows." He could feel a shift in the room, a magnetic pull manifested from his determination to unearth their truth. These unspoken grievances had felt insurmountable for so long, kept at bay like a secret disease festering within. Yet here and now, their raw honesty could breathe new life into a shared understanding. "But where do we begin?" His mother's voice quivered, betraying the weight of her own trepidation. Jack thought deeply, realizing that true exploration demanded more than words, it required courage beyond his past bravado. "Let us start with the things that most terrified us. I'll share mine if you share yours, too. No holding back." The stakes elevated, yet the prospect of risk ignited an unfamiliar warmth within him. This was not merely a conversation, it was an opportunity for healing, not just for them but for himself as well. And as they sat poised to share their pain, an undercurrent of urgency bubbled beneath the surface. Would this mutual vulnerability dismantle the walls that had separated them? As Jack's heart beat wildly in anticipation, he found himself caught between fear of the past and the hopeful whispers of possibility. A new emotional Landscape awaited them, one filled with the rawness of truth tipped with the danger of discovery. As their eyes locked, an unspoken agreement thrummed in the space between them. They would walk this path together, exposing their wounds to forge something unpredictable. With courage swelling in his chest, Jack took a breath, ready to dance into the shadows. "I'm willing to let go of anger if you are ready to explore the depths of our history." He could feel the threshold shifting beneath them. But what lay on the other side? Would reconciliation yield compassion, or would it prompt defensiveness? Jack's resolve deepened, heart thundering toward the unknown. But then came the flicker of doubt, lurking in the recesses of his mind. What if the truth revealed buried resentment instead of healing? Jack took a steadying breath as he leaned slightly forward, an unconscious invitation for his mother to follow suit. "Let us talk about the anger that day," he urged gently, feeling the weight of his own emotions. Surrounded by flickering shadows, their honesty felt stark against the flicker of the candlelight. "I remember feeling so lost, like the ground had split beneath my feet," he admitted. "We were screaming, trading hurtful words like they were weapons. I just wanted to be seen, to be understood. Instead, all I could see was your disappointment." The recollection of that night crashed over him like cold waves, yet the act of voicing it almost felt like freedom. His mother exhaled slowly, a tremor in her voice as she replied, "I was frightened, Jack. Fear made me lash out. I didn't know how to cope with my own shortcomings, let alone yours." The vulnerability in her voice was disarming. The once imposing figure of his childhood now felt utterly human. This was not just a confession but an acknowledgement of shared fallibility. Jack's heart raced, the space between them both electric and delicate. Here lay the fragile constructive years of enmity, each layer of misunderstanding peeling away like the tender skin of an onion. But why didn't we just speak up? Why did we let months and years of silence pile on, creating a wall? Pride, my son. Pride kept us trapped. I was too proud to admit my failures, she whispered, a hint of shame tugging at her lips. Each time I held back, I thought I was protecting you. Yet, in reality, I was just building a cage we both would end up imprisoned in. Jack felt the sting of truth sink insidiously into his chest. Pride and the fear of being vulnerable had kept him from reaching out for so long. I've spent so much of my life building this facade of independence, but where has that gotten me? He spat, the bitterness sharper than he intended. The world tells us to create success at any cost, but sometimes the most valuable parts of ourselves are hidden behind those walls, she replied with unwavering sincerity. To embrace change, we have to unveil those hidden truths. The enormity of her words resonated deeply within him. Jack had chased success, believing in the power of achievement, yet had been sliding further away from his own identity in the process. What had he sacrificed for this construct of self? What if I'm unable to shed that pride? What if I cannot separate the man I created from the boy who needed you? His mother's eyes glimmered with an understanding that seemed to bridge the distance between their fears. It will take determination. But I believe everything you need to rediscover yourself is right here. You just have to confront it. Their ongoing dialogue lifted an undeniable weight from Jack's shoulders. Gradually, he started to grasp that this session of their past was not just about the anger, it was a pathway, a cord connecting who they had been to who they could become. As Jack prepared to open further, he felt a twinge of uncertainty cloud his ambition. Could they withstand the heft of the truth together? I want to confront it all, the resentment, the heartbreak, the missed moments. Then let us dig deeper, she replied, resolve flickering in her voice. What specifically still haunts you? I resent that you didn't fight harder to understand me. I wanted you to see me, to recognize that I was struggling. His voice faltered, momentarily betraying the tempest of feelings. The silence hung between them, heavy but necessary. In that moment, Jack realized that while expressing his pain stung, it had also opened the door wider to understanding. It invited his mother to do the same in return. Through every harsh word hurled that night, a chance at rekindling their bond also emerged. As the torch of vulnerability illuminated their path, Jack sensed the horizon ahead, filled with the promise of rebirth, but still laden with lingering shadows. "We can reshape what lies ahead," he finally said, his heart igniting with a newfound determination. "But I need to know, are you ready to bear the weight alongside me? Are you prepared to share your deepest fears?" A chilling breeze swept through the cracks in the old house as Jack awaited her response, both terrified and hopeful about what they might discover next and whether they could truly embrace the truth at the heart of their shared history. Would they emerge from this journey stronger, or would darkness once again cast doubt over their fragile bond? Days turned into weeks as Jack continued navigating the intricate landscape of his relationship with his mother. Each visit to her modest home felt like stepping onto new terrain, fraught with both vulnerability and the promise of connection. They spent countless hours in a shared dialogue, peeling back the layers of hurt and healing, each conversation etching a deeper understanding into their fractured bond. This journey was not just about reconciliation, it had morphed into a transformative odyssey of discovery. Slowly, Jack began recognizing the profound clarity emerging amid the chaos. He was no longer merely the millionaire measuring success through accolades but a man yearning for genuine connection. Each shared memory illuminated parts of his past he had long buried, and the heartache morphed into motivation for self-exploration. Simultaneously, Jack experienced undeniable professional alignment. He re-evaluated the decisions that had driven him and began integrating a holistic approach into his business strategies. He realized he could no longer solely chase profits, it was essential to foster a deeper purpose within his professional endeavors. Reinventing his business model to focus on community development became his primary objective, turning real estate from mere transactions into a launchpad for sustainable living. Within the burgeoning architecture of his newfound ambition, a network of support formed. Jack sought mentorship from individuals who embodied the values he aspired to uphold. He organized workshops geared toward social entrepreneurship in real estate, creating a paradigm shift in how he envisioned success. What once represented conquest now reflected collective upliftment, bridging gaps in the community while nurturing a sense of belonging. Through this metamorphosis, Jack began to witness external validation of his growth. His innovative properties received recognition at prestigious summits for their ethical design and empowerment focus, culminating in a significant honor that left him humbled yet elated. The accolades were gratifying, but the real victory lay deeper. He had transformed his life's work into a vessel for healing and connection. As the seasons transitioned, Jack reveled in the changes that had taken root within him. He had faced the anger and resentment tied to his past, ultimately embracing the complexity of human emotions. The forgiveness journey enabled him to view not only his mother's actions with compassion but also his perceived failures, reaffirming that growth transcended the circumstances of childhood. On a brisk autumn afternoon, Jack stood at his mother's doorstep, a sense of buoyancy bubbling within him. Together, they made time for reflection, choosing to honor their progress. "I've discovered parts of myself through you," Jack admitted, his voice steady as they sat across from each other in a cozy cafe. "The flaws of my past don't define my worth today. We've unearthed wounds, but we've also cultivated resilience." Her eyes sparkled with a mix of pride and emotion. "We're redefining our narrative, Jack. It's not just about reconnecting, it's about healing as individuals through our shared experience. I want you to know how deeply I respect the man you're becoming." This moment resonated powerfully. Both had evolved in ways they had once deemed improbable. They had ventured into the uncharted territories of their hearts and minds, unearthing long-buried affections amid past hurt. As Jack prepared to leave, he felt an overwhelming surge of confidence and fulfillment enveloping him, a sense of achievement that transcended material success. The journey of understanding had melded their lives into a tapestry of shared hope and renewed purpose. With a reassuring smile, he felt the absence of bitterness, replaced instead by gratitude for the lessons learned. His journey was just beginning, but the destination was clearer than ever. Jack embarked on a new chapter, committed to nurturing connections forged through honesty and empathy while pursuing personal excellence in ways he had never envisioned. His heart swelled with pride, not just in his accomplishments but in the budding relationship with his mother, a rebirth of family, shaped through vulnerability and restored trust. Now, as they both walked forward into the future, Jack held on to an unwavering truth: they could navigate the complexities of life together, transforming past ghosts into pillars of strength for what lay ahead. This was true achievement. Do you want to explore more stories of transformation and growth? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.